Hello friends, and welcome to Inktober Prep. I'll be your guide. So what is Inktober? Inktober is a month-long challenge started by an illustrator named Jake Parker. Every day in October you do an ink drawing and share it online under the Inktober tag. And that's it. There's an official set of themes for each day on the Inktober website, but there's also a bunch of custom ones that a bunch of people put together. So you can kind of do whatever you want. And now it's a worldwide descent into madness. I mean, challenge, fun. So I'm gonna pre-cut some paper. I was thinking at first I'm gonna use square paper. I tried out a few different sizes and finally settled on doing something that was more regular. A 4x6, kind of, but trimming it to a 7x5 so it would fit a 7x5 frame really well. For some inspiration, let's pull up last year's Inktober themes and roll a die. We're looking at 14, which is clock. Huzzah. With the clocks theme and trying to keep rabbits in it, so I was thinking rabbit with a vest and pocket watch, like Alice in Wonderland. And so I put down an initial placement of the sketch in red pencil, and then I decided to start refining some lines in regular pencil so it's easier to transfer over. One of my considerations with making these is I want them to be easily printable in black and white, because the printer I have at home is just black and white laser jet printer. I want to be able to make prints of what I'm doing. I'm looking into thicker paper so that maybe I can add some touches of like color or iridescent or something onto the prints to customize each one a bit. But yeah, we'll see. Well, I'm working on some ideas. I need to try a couple things out and see if I can make something that I feel is good enough to give you. I've got this pad of illustration paper that I've never used before, but I'm curious how it feels. The tooth of it seems really nice. It's pretty thick, it's a good brand. Hopefully it'll be smooth enough for me. It looks really pretty, so it should be a pleasure to work with either way. For the transfer, I'm using this neat LED light pad. In the past, I've just used a glass table with a lamp underneath, or you can even tape it up on the window if it's still daylight outside, and that's an easy way to transfer too. It's just not as convenient as this is. I start with some of the larger shapes and I add more detail to strokes that I did not do in the more general underdrawing. I'm also going back to places slowly to add more and more bits of detail. As I get more comfortable with using the fine tip, getting the feel of how to add some detail that's suggestive of the texture and also the shapes of the shading. You want to go with the curves. You want to go along with it. Think of it like water in a river, but it's fur. I also don't want to get wrapped up in wondering how much to layer. So I think I'm gonna do this in basically just black and white, maybe adding another single solid color. And sometimes you just need an extra pop of something. It just brings things together. So my tools are these three things right now. A red Colorase pencil for simple sketching, a Pentel brush pen for the bulk of my line work, and this lovely magenta ink, probably using it in a size 0 round brush for some added color highlights. But I want most of my thinking and detail work to come from just using the brush pen. I feel pretty confident about my inking skills in general, but because I mostly prefer to use pen actually for drawing in my sketchbooks, I don't feel confident about my creativity. Coming up with new ideas, mixing things together that I normally maybe would not put together. I feel like I need a lot of development in that area, And if creativity is a muscle, I feel like mine is a Magikarp. It's there, it's probably doing something, it's flopping around, but is it really doing anything? So maybe after an obscene amount of work, it can turn into a Gyarados. So for now, let's just get better at splashing. That is my goal for this Inktober. Let's splash a little better. I also have this book that I started reading at one point. I didn't really give a fair shot to. It wasn't really the right time. But creativity is something that you need to work on. So I'm gonna go through some of the exercises in this Imagineering workshop book. But I also want to do something that I know I'm comfortable with and just try to push it a little further. So I might just be doing, so you know, I draw, well, if you follow any of my stuff, you know, I draw a lot of rabbits. I have rabbits. I love rabbits. They're just a thing. So another thing I want to do is get some ideas for an aesthetic that I want. I'm gonna make, I think, a Pinterest board because that's the easiest way to keep some of these things together. Just kind of the look I'm going for so that I don't get too carried away in layering and overworking it. And again, continuing to question what am I doing without having something concrete in front of me. Having an example, a physical example of something I want to go for helps me a lot. So I want to settle on a style, putting together some references so I'm not second guessing it all the time. I also want to do a few practice pieces with that in mind so that by the time October comes around in a few days, I'll hopefully have a plan in place where I'm not going to be figuring out the logistics of what I'm going to be doing, so I'm not debating a lot of what size paper am I going to be using, what kind of paper am I going to be using, which pens am I going to be using. I want to figure all that stuff out beforehand so that when Inktober comes, I can focus on just idea and making it. So I'm not spending, otherwise I spend a lot of time just sort of second guessing and wondering and trying to figure out, wait, what should I do? How should I do this? And if I have a plan in place, I have something written down visually in front of me because I'm very ADHD. I need something visually keyed in front of me where I can not go chasing small animals and instead I can pay attention to, like, hopefully this will work. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't want to overwork it and get overwhelmed and then end up not doing the challenge just because I was overwhelmed by the details of trying to figure out what I should do and trying to remember it and debating it that I never actually get to the point of making something, which for me is a very real problem. There are a few places that I didn't define well enough in the first drawing that I messed up in this one and really want to adjust. So I'm adding another step and pulling out this white pen that I've got. It's also sort of a Pentel brush pen. White is not very opaque, but I figured since I was using another Pentel brush, might as well use the same sort of style thing and see if I could get it to work. But it is making a huge difference to me in fixing up some of these shapes, like the hard line used in the ear shading at the very beginning. That was a big mistake. And the cut of the armholes on the sleeves of his vest, which makes the shape of the arms look too short and all wrong. So with a few layers of this white down and a bit of ink touch-ups, once that's dry, I'm going to scan it in because I'm really worried about this next part, adding in a touch of color. The arm was bugging me and I couldn't figure out why. And finally I figured out I needed to have more fur to the edge where it comes up on the far side because some of that fur should be sticking out over the edge of the vest and stuff. But I totally just flattened it out, and that's why it looks wrong. So yay, we figured out something. I know I want to add color to the tie, but I'm worried it won't quite show up since too much of it was covered by my ink. I'm not sure where else I want to add it, probably the ears and the cheeks. So the ink works okay, but it doesn't really pop enough. I want to try out some gouache, and this is my test, so I might as well. I want a flat, bright, even color that can pop against the ink, so we will see what this does on a test piece of just a little bit of the ink. And it's still really translucent. Okay, so I have this acrylic gouache, and they call it a gouache that like won't reactivate with water, but honestly it feels much more just like an acrylic that happens to dry flat, so I feel like they should just call it like matte acrylic. That color looks all right. Actually, the color looks pretty good, but I'm realizing that this whole process is getting way out of hand. I'm getting totally sidetracked. So let's just use the pink ink, maybe some water to dilute it just a touch, and aim for some big chunks of color, not worrying about all this detail. Overall, I'm happy with the design. I feel that it needs something in the background, but I don't want it to be too distracting. So I'm gonna block in a bit of shape with my color ink, and using just a circle, couple circles to sort of accentuate the roundness of, well, the watch. A loop is good, but it needs to be sort of balanced out a bit. So hopefully adding some shape to sort of continue that pattern through some more of the piece. Just a bit of roundness to the background will help even it out a bit, make it feel a bit more complete. Thank you for watching my intro to Inktober part 2. I hope this inspired you to pick up a pen. Really, Inktober is for everybody. Even if all you can draw is stick figures can still be expressive and hilarious. One of the most popular comics on the internet, XKCD, it started out with stick figures. So just treat yourself to a pen that feels neat, or just a pen you like the color of, and a pad of paper that's fresh and clean, and just try it out. And I look forward to seeing what you post. Be sure to tag me with your Inktober drawings so that I can see them. I've got Instagram is probably where I'll be putting most of mine, and if you send me yours there too, that would be awesome. I hope you liked this video. If you did enjoy it, or if at least it wasn't a waste of your time, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up. I hope to see you next week for, oh gosh, I think that'll be already the beginning of Inktober. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye, friends.